Greetings. This is Arvat McLean of Speak, the Universe Listens. As a very young person, I always felt that I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders, having to make grown-up decisions in order to survive a life marked with physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. While my face was smiling on the outside, on the inside, I always secretly cried and felt miserable. However, over the years, I learned some gems that helped to turn my life around. I now get to live the life of my dreams, filled with love, travel, and wonderment. And I am absolutely passionate about sharing what I have learned with you. If you want to live your best life, tune in each week as I, along with some amazing guests, share these life-changing gems with you. Inspired to be more, do more, have more. Greetings and welcome to today's episode of Speak, the Universe Listens. Today's topic is time to implement. And we have a special guest with us today. It's Terron Watkins, and he has joined us at least one time before.
Yes.
And Terron is actually the CEO and the public relations specialist of Inspire Marketing, and they're actually my marketing firm. Yay!
Yay.
So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. So I guess about maybe like 2 or so weeks ago, we had an episode where we had talked about possibly doing focus wheels and writing letters, basically saying what it is we would want in our life. And from that episode, it was like everybody who was in the studio that day said, well, I'm going to write a letter.
Yeah.
And so both he and I wrote letters. And so is there anything you can share with us about that?
Yeah, so a little journey on me writing my letter. When I first wrote it, I guess I caught myself writing what I thought I should be writing. So I was sitting there. I left out the studio inspired, went home, didn't write it yet, went to work, and started writing the letter. And I was like, all right, well, I need to sit down in some quiet time and write the letter. So I sat down, closed my office door, and started writing the letter. But I wasn't necessarily feeling it. I was just writing what I felt like I should be writing. So I wrote it, read it a few days, and then you asked me, did I write the letter? And I said, yeah, but you know what? I feel like I undersold myself. And so that kind of sparked me to write another letter, and that one felt a lot more gratifying.
Okay, well, good. So tell me, in your brain, once you listened to the podcast a couple of weeks ago, what in that podcast made you decide to write a letter?
I believe it was the story. You told a story about the gentleman who wrote the letter, and then everything was happening. And then we also had an off-camera conversation in which you told me you had wrote a list, and most of the things from your list happened. So I said, all right, now if it's working for one and it's working for two, it'll probably work for me as three, so I might as well do it. And so that's kind of what led me to writing the letter myself.
Okay. And so what, can we ask what types of things was in your first letter?
Yeah, so in my first letter, the main thing that I wrote about in my first letter was, I wrote things like, I want to be happy, I just want to have a lot of gratitude. One exact line was, I want to be rich beyond my means. But that, to me, what is rich beyond my means? It was very vague. And rich how? Did I want to be rich in emotion, rich in money? So I just feel like I was really cheating myself, honestly.
Okay. I like that. So what was your second letter like?
So my second letter was a lot more detailed and honest to myself of what I actually wanted. Like, there have been a few job positions that the title itself scares me. And so I would never apply for that job. But I was like, you know what? If I want that job, I need to write that I want this job and feel what it feels like to be in that role. And that is when I really started feeling the letter. When I started writing and feeling like, yeah, you know what? Why do I think I'm not ready for this yet? Who's to say? And so that's kind of when I was like, all right, now I really feel like I'm writing my letter.
Yeah, that's so true. One thing I always say is everything is hard if you don't know how to do it. But once you know how to do it, it's easy. And so, like, a lot of times we'll put up blocks as to, I can't do this, I'm not ready for that. And really, most of the times, it might just take learning one more thing, and then you could do it. And so I like that you was feeling the block, but then you was like, let me just go ahead and feel what it feels like, and then that kind of opened you up to being able to. Did you apply to any of the jobs?
Yes. So funny. So when I wrote the first letter, I didn't really have any details. And then when I wrote the second letter, I wrote the position that I wanted. And so I've been getting notifications for jobs for a while. But every time I was writing the letter, before I wrote the letter, I wasn't really getting any notifications for that position. It was like little jobs that I felt comfortable I can do. And they were, also kind of short selling myself. Like, as a public relations specialist, I can do many things, and social media is one of them. So it would be like social media this, social media that, which is the one thing that like I never really wanted to just do ever, just social media. So when that was popping up, I never really wanted to apply. But after I wrote the letter, I started getting job notifications. That's literally all that has been coming through is that title. So I was like, all right, well now I have to apply because it's all that I'm seeing.
And then you were telling me about the whole concept of applying for jobs in Atlanta.
Yes. So that was another thing too. So I plan on relocating soon, and that was one of those things that I kind of always kept secretive and to myself. I wasn't really voicing it out. If you were around me, you knew that I wanted to relocate, but other than that, you never really knew. But I wrote in the letter, I was like, all right, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I need to fill it all. And so I wrote that position that I wanted in Atlanta. And I was like, all right, this feels a lot better. And before the letter, I had a mental block of applying for jobs in Atlanta. I was like, nobody's really going to want to hire somebody, 3-4 states away. And they're going to be like, oh, they're not going to interview me. They're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. Wrote the letter, had a phone interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was working. It's working. The implementation is definitely coming through.
And it's, actually I've been talking to you and working with Inspired Marketing for about a year and a half. And so I know it's like a process because I know for myself it was a process in terms of learning certain concepts, principles, how the universe works, not really believing some parts, like saying, oh, that sounds good, but I don't think it would work for me. I don't see how that could really work. But taking the steps and just going ahead and trying it anyway. And so I love that you wrote the letter and are going ahead and trying it anyway. But I think a lot of times, a lot of us kind of get caught up or stuck in I kind of understand, I kind of get this, but I'm not willing to take a step to actually implement. So as far as, is this like the first step you've taken to implement, or have you done it?
No, so it's not the first step I've taken. In working with you, one thing I can say is I almost feel like I have to force myself to do the things because you are just such a light that you kind of rain out on everybody around you to want to do the same thing. And knowing you all my life, it's like, all right, she's telling you how she got to where she is. She told you where she started, telling you where she's at now, and then telling you what she's going to finish at. If she's able to do all this, why can't you? And so, but you're definitely right though, because there is, in the beginning process, there's a feeling of, yeah, that's working for her, but that ain't really my thing. Like, I'm not one to be sitting here talking to the universe or trying to meditate.
Right.
So I definitely understood it. But we spoke about meditation one day, and I started meditating for a little while. I remember we actually had a conversation about meditation, and I told you every time I would meditate, I just felt uncomfortable and would kind of burst out into a few tears. But now that's changed. We spoke to somebody before, and she told me a different meditation technique. I did that. That showed immediate results. So I guess the letter was kind of just a why not? If everything else that you've been taught is working, why stop here?
So can you share with the person?
Yes. So, what was happening? I had just went through credit card fraud and theft, and she said, well, you need to speak to your ancestors, so stick your hand on your stomach and on your back and sit in a quiet place towards facing west of the sun and meditate in the morning. Now, when she first said it, I was like, yeah, man, that sounds great. But I went home, I was like, I'm not doing this. Because again, it just sounded awkward and weird to me to be, one, I've never really meditated before. I never had a deep meditation. So doing that and then putting my hand on my stomach and my back, I was like, now I'm just sitting here awkward trying to meditate. But the minute I did it, I checked my bank account the next day looking for I thought I was gonna be in the negative, honestly, and I had a random source of money sitting there. So I was like, all right, now this thing might be working a little bit. Then I did it again, and I got reimbursed for something I did at work that I wasn't expecting. So I said, all right, well, I need to keep doing this until I actually feel completed. So I don't do it anymore, sadly enough. I'll probably start back. But when I was doing it, it was working very well.
So what made you stop doing it?
Honestly, laziness, and when you're trying to implement a new thing into your life, it's hard to. It's weird. So I feel like I'm relearning things. I'm unteaching myself things and then relearning new things. And I think that process itself is always challenging, honestly. So to stop from just waking up when it's time to go to work to I need to set an alarm and get up earlier is a challenge. Or things like I need to change my way of thinking. So instead of just getting upset, think, well, this wouldn't have happened if I wasn't thinking a negative thought before that.
Yeah, I think you hit on a key. I think this conversation is important, again, because, again, a lot of us, we kind of get the concepts, but we haven't implemented. And then even once we start implementing, we can fall off. It's hard, or I guess we're not, I don't know if the right word is discipline, but it's hard for us to get that pattern going. So we might do it for 2 weeks and then you kind of fall off. Or even sometimes, you can be consciously aware, like, I need to do this. But then you're like, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. And so it's like overcoming that, like you called it laziness, and I call it laziness too, but I think it's something more than laziness that we have to overcome. And I'm guessing the same way we're doing everything else is the same way we would overcome that, which is seeing ourselves as doing this every day. Yes. Seeing ourselves as someone who does what we say we're going to do, get results from it, reap the rewards from it, and just actually putting that vision out there. And then I think also always say, if you ask, you'll get an answer. Like you ask the universe, how can I? How can I be a person who is committed to doing it the easy way?
Yes, because this way that we're doing it is a lot easier than the way that we're taught to do it.
Right. So, and I'm just, the same way. It's like when things get hard in my life, I mean, it's like, the busier I get, the less I practice, which is really when you should practice more, and so just trying to remember, like, because you feel like, I don't have time for that.
Yes.
But that's the most important time to take the time to do it. So, but I did a letter as well, because I think I said I was going to do the focus wheel. But by the time we finished talking, I was like, I'm going to do a letter. And so I ended up doing a letter. And I actually bought it because I might share a little piece of it with y'all. We'll see. But so I did a letter, and one of the things that I had said that I was going to do the focus wheel on was about my weight, right? And I had been stagnant in my weight like I said, my knee issues, it really had been ongoing, but for 5 months I wasn't able to run. And so once that time kicked in, that's when I started saying, I'm going to be fat, 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 I'm going to be fat. And then I started saying, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat. And it was like, the more I said it, it just seemed like the bigger I got. And even though I started exercising again or started running again, like towards the end of February, there was no change in my weight. If anything, I continued to gain. And so I had put it out there, like, I'm going to do a focus wheel. I got to get my brain right and get it off of the, I'm fat mentality. And so, but I decided to write the letter instead. And so it was really interesting because once I wrote the letter, it was effortless. Like, I no longer had to fight against myself, so I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I decided that, because I feel like once your mind is right, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what method you take to try to lose weight, for example. because the right thing will just pop into your head and it's going to work for you. And so I decided that I was just going to monitor what I'm eating and just not go over a certain number of calories a day. Effortless, just easy.
Really?
Didn't make any errors, no mistakes, no, oh, I wish I had. It was just perfect. And already I've lost like 4.5 pounds.
Oh, that is terrific.
Yeah, and so and I put some other things on my letter too, but I'm gonna just read a little bit of how my letter actually sounds, and I'm gonna skip some stuff because I don't want everybody to know how vain I really am. But my letter, it starts off, it says, I'm so grateful. This past month has been fabulous and I accomplished so much. First and foremost, I lost 15 pounds and I look fantastic. Look, I want to skip this part. I feel terrific in my clothes. I can see my muscles and my curves. I look so cute. And so anyway, it goes on just describing just how cute I look and how teeny I am. And you know how my clothes look on me now. And then I also added some other things in my letter in terms of things that I want to create in my life. And so, but when I'm reading the letter, and I really, when I started off, I was doing it twice a day. So for maybe like the first 2 weeks, I was reading it twice a day, and I'm just like in my brain, I'm prancing like I look so cute. I got all these curves.
Actually feeling it.
Yeah, it's like I'm like seeing myself, looking myself in the mirror, and pose and stuff like that. So I was actually doing that and getting into the feeling place. And the song I was singing in my head was "Can You Feel a Brand New Day?" So I'm just like, can you feel? But that's like what you really want to do is just get into the feeling place of it, and just feel excited about it, and it like really makes a difference. And I don't know what took me so long to do this, but yeah.
I definitely agree, though. It definitely does take getting to the feeling place. I believe that was also another block that I had in my first letter. Even when I was reading it, it just didn't read off. I wasn't feeling it as I read it. It was like I was just reading words off of a page. It was most like I was sitting in an English class just being played popcorn, being picked to read out loud.
Right.
So I'm just sitting there like, yeah, and I'm going to be so happy, and I'll be rich, and it'll be great. And I was like, oh, what am I saying?
Right.
But in this letter, when I'm reading it, I actually feel it. I found that I have to read it. I do it once a night, but I have to read it like right before I go to bed. Like it'll be the last thing I do, because I like taking those positive thoughts into my sleep with me, honestly.
Yeah. And then another thing is, just the whole point of writing it and being clear on what it is you want. Because if you don't know what you want, then how do you create it, And so I think the writing it down really sends that clear message. Okay, this is what I want. We're not confused on this, And like a lot of times we will say this, but then we say that. Or we say this and then we take it back. I want to do this, but I don't think I can. And so I think with a letter and writing it down, getting to the feeling place of it, staying in that vibration for however long you can, but I mean at least try to do it for 5 minutes.
I agree.
It makes a difference.
I definitely would say that too, because when I was writing, as I wrote the second letter, when I was being very detailed in what I wanted, it felt like I was being more meticulous in what I actually wanted. It felt like I did for the first time, like in writing the letter, I didn't feel like I was cheating myself. I felt like, all right, Terron, this is what you want, this is what you deserve, this is what you're gonna have. It's yours there. There's abundance for everybody, so you can have it. This person can have it, and that person can have it. So write what you actually want instead of thinking, oh, but it's just never enough money for the whole world to do this, or it's never enough jobs for this. So in writing it the second time, I did feel it. I felt like I was being more detailed to myself, honestly.
And I like what you say, because about it's enough for everyone. It's enough for everyone to have jobs and money and everything we want, because the universe is expansive and it responds to us. And so if we're saying I want more, then it will provide more. It will find a way to provide more, as long as we're in that vibration. And I always say, God don't speak English. It's like responding. The universe is responding to the vibrations that we're putting out. And so the letter helps us to clear up our vibration. It's like we're placing an order. If I'm going to McDonald's, I got to be clear.
Yeah.
I want the Big Mac. I don't want a hamburger. You can't just say, can you, I guess you could say, can you give me a hamburger? But if you want a Big Mac, you got to ask for the Big Mac. So it just helps you to be clear, clean up your vibration as to, this is what I want, and put that out there.
I agree.
Do you have any closing remarks?
I guess my closing remarks would just be, if you haven't written your letter yet, go ahead and write it, and never feel like there's never enough for everyone. If you want something and you desire something, I would say to put it out into the universe, because you can't receive anything that you're scared to be vocal about.
Well, thank you for that. That was a nice wrap up.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
Okay, so I really enjoyed talking to Terron Watkins with Inspire Marketing. I hope you enjoyed the show as well, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Check out my website at arvatmcclain.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my email, to my podcast, by clicking the link below. Until next time, bye.